Hi guys, and welcome back to another one of my videos. I'm the Whisky Speaker, as you probably know me better by now, Nathan. I'm going to be talking to you today about how to learn about all the different types of stills there are in a whisky distillery. I'm not going to list every single one because we'll be here forever and a day and you'd probably be a skeleton by the time I've finished. So, nice overview of what to expect when you go into a distillery. So we're going to start off actually with single grain, just purely because I have my master drawing here, which I know you're all dying to see. Here we go. Da, 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 da. Now you're probably thinking, what on earth is this? So I will explain it to you. Now, back in the 1800s, there was a Scottish chap called Robert Stein, and he invented something called the continuous still. And it was basically two columns attached to each other, one being the rectifier, where wash first enters, and then going over to the analyzer. This, however, was slightly more refined and better known associated with Angus coffee, a chap who was an Irishman, and in 1830 patented the continuous still. So very simply, a wash would come in from the top, heat would meet it from the bottom. As it went down a pipe, it would heat it up. It would then carry over the heated wash into the analyzer, inside of which was perforated plates. Steam would once again travel up through here, and as the liquid flowed down over these plates, it would then strip the alcohol, vapour and all the light stuff from the waters and everything, and concentrate that alcohol and take it back up and run it off. Now, believe it or not, this is an exceptionally effective way of making whiskey and producing neutral grain spirits for vodkas and gins and everything in between. Today, these are normally made out of stainless steel, but in essence, that is the process without getting too technical. It will, if you allow it to, make alcohol up to about 95%. It can easily go a little bit higher, but there really wouldn't be anything gained when you're having to water it down to around about 63 to be put inside a cask. And back then they would have been made of copper. However, today the majority of the continuous stills are made of stainless steel. Moving swiftly on to what you guys will probably recognise as more of a still. When producing single malt whisky, we have the good old copper pot still. Now I apologise because I never passed Arts GCSE, so you're going to have to bear with. Hopefully you get the idea. At the bottom here, if you went back and had a time machine, you'd see flames at the bottom cooking away all the liquid inside. Now with this, we're going to be starting off with the wash still. If you fast forward to today, you would see at the bottom there, if you're lucky enough, which is normally hidden under an operations floor so you don't see it, is the heated steam coil for heating the liquid. And then above that you would have an inlet pipe for the wash, above which you'd have a service hatch for the chaps to have a sneaky peek every time they've had a run on the still. You would have an air intake valve on the side. You'd have an observation glass to see whether or not the foam inside is getting a little bit high or not, because you need to make sure that it doesn't fail the run over here, which at the top, this little kink here is the swan neck. Very elegant name and I like it. Down into the lean arm, and just attached to the side there is potentially an anti-collapse valve. Now, if I was to remove the observation window from the centre there, you would have a plain pot still. Nice and easy for the vapours to travel up, not with too much problem. It's a nice heavy, oily spirit being produced from that still. However, another still that you may have come across or may not be aware of is something called the boil still, or the ball still, or the boiling still. And it looks a little something like this. There we go. Once again, we've got our nice large dumpy body, on top of which sits a pair of shoulders for the neck. And what happens is, obviously, as the vapours travel up, they can hit these odd shaped bits of copper, and then basically the volatile vapours hit this, condense, run back down inside the body before trying to attempt to go back up the neck, which will help give a lighter character. So that's the ball boiling or boil pot still. Now my favourite named still is this one, and it's called the lantern still. If I can get this board cleaned in time for you. Not a fan of the shape, but I do like the name. And that's a lantern still. So slightly more jagged, pointed edges. Once again, vapour can hit off the weird angles, condense back down before trying to make their way up to come over the swan neck into the lean arm and down into the shell and tube condenser. Now the quirkier the shape, the traditionally speaking, the more lighter the whiskey is going to be, but it also depends if you obviously heat it above 78.5% centigrade, which is at which point ethanol will extract itself from water. If you boil it at like 85 and 90 centigrade, then obviously the volatile esters and etc. are going to fly up that neck and get out of there twice as quick, which means that you've got less rectification of the spirit recycling itself inside the still before it leaves. So basically another element to think about as well is depending on how high the neck is, and the higher the neck, the further the conduits and everything have to travel in order to escape, which will once again lead to a lighter flavour of whiskey. Now a hybrid, and off the top of my head the only two that stick in my mind, is the Loch Lomond distillery, and on the island of Orkney, Scarpa. There is what can only be described as a hybrid between which I mentioned earlier, the continuous still, and which we are now mentioning, the pot still, looking something like this. If you imagine this copper pot still cut in half, and we're now excuse me, examining inside this, what you'll see is a large, all made out of copper again, base, and this bit on top all made out of copper, but it is literally just a straight up column with inside perforated plates, which will then help only the lightest flavour profiles leave as they hit these plates, which are cooler, and it recycles the vapours inside, which are fighting a lot harder to escape. So Loch Lomond distillery and Scarpa, this is the Lomond still. Now Auchentoshan, which I may have mentioned before, does triple distillation. They use copper pot still, and the thing you have to be aware with them is, because of triple distillation, they have the wash still, they have an intermediate still, and then they have the spirit still. They are the free stills. So anything that's triple distillation, the biggie in the middle is the intermediate still. If you went back far enough in history, and in some rare cases in Ireland still, they still have riveted copper sheets to make up their large pot stills. But today most of these are all welded together. So guys, I hope you've learnt a little bit, so when you go into your next distillery you'll be able to tell your difference between the rectifier and the analyzer for making single grain whiskey. You'll be able to tell the difference between this little beast here, the Lomond still, or the plain still, or the boiling or ball still, or my personal favourite, the lantern still. There's so many variants, like I say, on all of these distilleries. No two distilleries are the same, and you will see variants on a theme, and they are a fascinating part to check out, because as I say, this is the heart of the distillery. This is where apart from the flavour being mainly given by wood, this is where you're going to have the game changer for how that spirit comes out. So next time you're in the distillery, check out, see if you can identify what type of design it is. A modern distillery might have even come up with a new hybrid that I haven't mentioned, and if so, please drop a comment in the box below. I would love to hear it, or even drop us a photograph. That would be awesome. Thank you very much for joining me today, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. As soon as I can, I'll be giving you hopefully another video to enjoy, and hopefully my drawings might have improved by then to whet your appetite to learn more about whiskey. Thank you very much for joining me again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.